My fiancée left me for another guy before our wedding because of a fortune teller's prediction. Hello, Reddit. I'm using a throwaway account because I need to share something deeply personal, and I prefer to keep my identity private. I've been a long-time lurker, but recent events have compelled me to share my story. I was engaged to a woman named Clara. We had been together for 5 years, and I genuinely believed we were building a life together. We met during graduate school while working on a group project in our digital media program. Late-night study sessions turned into coffee dates, which evolved into dinner dates, and eventually, a committed relationship. We had planned our wedding for the following month, with all the deposits paid and invitations sent to 180 guests. My parents had generously covered half of the $28,000 cost, and we had a honeymoon booked to New Zealand. We shared a downtown apartment with a beautiful river view, managed our finances together, and had even started discussing plans to start a family the next year. My job as an animator kept me busy with tight deadlines and long rendering sessions, but I always made time for our relationship. Clara worked as a UX designer at a financial tech company, and we both had stable incomes. Our Sundays were often spent cooking together, with Clara preparing meals from her grandmother's Italian recipes while I handled the cleanup. About 6 months ago, Clara began spending time with a new group of friends led by a woman named Mia. This group functioned more like a women's empowerment circle, charging membership fees and promoting various spiritual products. Mia referred to herself as a spiritual guide, offering palm readings, tarot card sessions, and astrology charts. At first, I didn't think much of it. Everyone is entitled to their hobbies. However, Clara started bringing home crystals, talking about aligning her chakras, and focusing more on her divine feminine energy than on our conversations. Physical changes followed. Clara dyed her hair a pastel pink shade, citing it would amplify her heart chakra. Her wardrobe shifted to flowy bohemian dresses and oversized sweaters, replacing her usual well-fitted clothes. She began wearing loose harem pants around the apartment, which often caught on furniture. When I mentioned their impracticality, she accused me of being too focused on the material plane. The apartment was constantly filled with the scent of burning incense, which aggravated my mild asthma. When I asked her to open a window, she claimed I was resistant to cleansing energies. She started categorizing our friends based on their energetic impact, labeling my best friend, Ben, as an energy depleter because he joked about her crystal collection. Our shared activities dwindled. Clara announced that cooking meat disrupted her spiritual frequency and stopped preparing the pasta dishes I loved. Our fridge, once filled with home-cooked meals, was now stocked with expensive cold-pressed juices and pre-packaged health foods. Credit card statements revealed charges from places like Crystal Harmony Emporium and Divine Path Wellness. When I expressed concern about our spending, she accused me of being too attached to money and claimed that investing in spiritual growth had infinite returns. I later discovered that Mia's operation resembled a cult-like multi-level marketing scheme targeting professional women in their 30s. The pattern was clear: make them feel special, isolate them from their partners, and sell them overpriced products and exclusive retreats. 2 months ago, Clara became increasingly distant. She was always on her phone, changed her passwords, and started attending late-night wellness events. She developed a sudden obsession with the gym, attending sunrise yoga sessions and disappearing for entire weekends on retreats. Our intimacy faded, she became unresponsive to affection, and our physical relationship ceased entirely. I confided in Ben during one of our basketball games. He had been my best friend since high school, and his insight was invaluable. He warned me that something was amiss, but I was hesitant to accept it. Eventually, I noticed a recurring figure in Clara's social media posts, a man named Nate, her new personal trainer. His profile was filled with shirtless workout videos and pseudo-spiritual quotes. Our joint account showed unexplained withdrawals, including an $800 charge for a twin flame activation retreat at a luxury resort. When I confronted Clara about our finances, she accused me of attacking her personal growth. One evening, after waiting for her to return home, I confronted her about the changes in our relationship. She became defensive, claiming that my negative energy was suffocating her. She accused me of being materialistic and stated that our wedding was a symbol of societal constructs. The conversation escalated, and she left, saying she needed space to realign her energies. 3 days later, Clara returned and ended our engagement, stating that a palm reading revealed we were not soulmates. She admitted to meeting someone at her gym who understood her spiritual journey. She claimed that their connection transcended the physical realm and insisted it wasn't cheating because the universe brought them together. I was devastated. 5 years together, and it all unraveled because of a palm reading and a newfound spiritual path. I didn't beg or plead, I simply wished her well and began the painful process of moving on. Clara left that night with only a few of her belongings. I sat alone in our apartment, the engagement ring still glinting on the coffee table under the lamplight. The silence was deafening. For a long time, I stared at that ring, trying to make sense of how a 5-year relationship could be dismantled so completely, so quickly, and for reasons that felt surreal. I texted Ben, "It's over. She's gone." He didn't ask for details. He simply replied, "I'm on my way. Bringing pizza." 30 minutes later, Ben and his wife, Melissa, were on my balcony with a box of our favorite deep dish and 2 six-packs. I walked them through the events: Clara's spiritual transformation, the retreats, the trainer, the breakup. Ben listened quietly, only occasionally shaking his head. When I confessed that a part of me had wondered if Clara was right about not being soulmates, he leaned forward and said, "If your soulmate is someone who believes breaking your heart is part of her ascension, then I'm glad you missed out." We shared a moment of levity that evening, Melissa joking that Clara's soul journey sounded like something from a high-budget sci-fi show. That laughter was a gift I didn't realize I needed. The next few weeks were filled with logistics. I had to call family members and explain that the wedding was cancelled. I kept it diplomatic, simply saying that Clara and I had realized we weren't right for each other before the big day. My dad's only question was about whether the deposits were refundable. "Mostly not," I admitted. "Cheaper than a divorce," he replied matter-of-factly. My mother, always the more emotional one, was heartbroken. She adored Clara and had been excited about the wedding. When I finally shared the full story with her, she blinked back tears and said, "You'll come over for dinner every Thursday." No arguments. Canceling the wedding was exhausting. Vendor after vendor expressed sympathy, but most held firm on their non-refundable policies. The venue took the full $8,000 deposit. The photographer, more compassionate, only charged for the initial $500 down payment rather than the full $2,800. Breaking the lease on our apartment was another ordeal. We had 8 months left, and ending it early cost 2 months' rent, $3,600. But it was worth every penny to not come home to a place haunted by confusion and incense. I hired a financial consultant to untangle our accounts. Clara and I had maintained a shared account for bills and the wedding, while keeping personal accounts separate. I transferred what was left to my own name and closed the joint one. Passwords changed, subscriptions updated, locks replaced. I also started going to the gym regularly, 5 days a week. Not for revenge, not to win the breakup, but because I needed something that gave me control over my life again. Ben joined me for the early sessions. "If I'm going to be a dad someday, I don't want to ease during pickup basketball," he joked. We set a schedule: legs on Monday, chest on Tuesday, back and shoulders on Thursday, arms on Friday, and full body circuits on Saturdays. The workouts helped. So did the court. We resumed our old ritual, shooting hoops twice a week. The friendly trash talk resumed. "Your crossover's slower than your last animation sequence," Ben would taunt. "At least my joints don't sound like bubble wrap when I run," I'd fire back. I found a new apartment. Smaller, 1 bedroom, but with thick concrete walls, no more overhearing chanting or chakra alignments. It had a decent-sized balcony where I could grill and enough light to set up my workspace. Ben and Melissa helped with the move, bringing along a housewarming gift, a high-end coffee machine. "No more overpriced lattes," Ben said proudly. "This thing pays for itself in 3 months." He wasn't wrong. I started reconnecting with friends Clara had gently pushed away over the years. She used to call them draining and negative influences. Turns out, they were just normal people who liked to talk about sports, play cards, and meet up for wings on Friday nights. We revived our poker nights, where the stakes were low and the jokes were constant. It was refreshing, no talk of alignment, frequencies, or sacred bonds. Just real conversations. Professionally, things took a turn for the better too. I'd been toying with the idea of applying to another animation studio, one that offered better benefits and more creative control. The breakup lit the spark I needed. I applied, interviewed, and got the position, with a 15% raise and a more collaborative team. My side project, a short film I'd been developing in the evenings, also gained traction. A few industry blogs picked it up, and one studio reached out to discuss potential development. In a small but symbolic move, I redesigned one of the characters, a charming trickster figure who deceives others with vague wisdom and promises of hidden power. It didn't take a therapist to know who inspired that. I cooked again. Real meals, nothing that required consulting the cosmos. I found that cooking could be grounding, almost meditative: chopping, seasoning, stirring, tasting. For the first time in months, I felt at peace in my own space. Meanwhile, Melissa kept tabs on Clara's public life via social media. It read like the slow-motion unraveling of someone who'd realized the ground beneath her had vanished. First came the vague posts about growth through pain and trusting the universe. Then photos of her innate partner yoga poses, beach sunsets, hashtags like #twinflame and #divine connection. After about 4 weeks, the posts became less romantic and more cryptic, quotes about betrayal, spiritual resilience, and lessons learned. Nate, it turned out, was finding cosmic alignment with multiple women. Someone tagged him at a bar with a different woman on the same night Clara had posted about connecting under the full moon. Guess the moon wasn't monogamous, Ben said, dryly. Things got messy, eh? Clara posted about financial difficulties and spiritual tests. Melissa did some digging and discovered Clara had invested her savings in Nate's new movement studio. It never opened. But Nate had a new motorcycle. The universe, it seemed, rewarded him with horsepower. The more I heard from Melissa about Clara's unraveling, the more it seemed like something out of a cautionary tale. Apparently, the entire empowerment circle Mia ran was falling apart at the seams. Melissa's cousin's roommate had briefly joined the group and was now part of a private Facebook community that had formed after everything blew up. Someone had discovered that Mia had not only been financially manipulating her members but also engaging in affairs with several of their husbands. Nate, it turned out, was more than just Clara's trainer, he was Mia's soulmate partner recruiter. Their scam was frighteningly methodical. Mia would approach emotionally vulnerable women, often those facing big life transitions or relationship stress, and offer them a free spiritual alignment reading. From there, she'd identify blockages in their lives and suggest that their romantic partners were preventing their ascension. Once doubt had taken root, she'd encourage them to attend her empowerment circles, priced at $200 a month, with the final sales pitch being luxurious weekend retreats marketed as awakening intensives. Nate played a key role in this system. He would become romantically involved with selected women to give them the sensation of being understood, desired, and spiritually reborn. It was brilliant in the darkest way possible and deeply predatory. When one husband found a thread of messages between his wife and Nate, he created a public Facebook group detailing the scam. He posted screenshots of Mia's communications, payment records, and detailed how his wife had been told her marriage was holding her soul back. That group ballooned quickly, filled with stories from dozens of women who had either participated in or narrowly avoided the trap. The total amount defrauded? Over $200,000 gone to memberships, products, retreats, and one-on-one soul coaching. Mia vanished without a trace. Nate, less subtle, simply rebranded himself and moved to a new gym across town. I didn't find joy in Clara's situation, only a sad kind of clarity. She had chased something that looked like purpose but turned out to be an illusion. My own life, however, was stabilizing in ways I hadn't expected. The apartment felt like home. The gym gave me routine. Work was rewarding. The new studio valued creativity without the micromanaging I'd dealt with at my last job. My side project, the animated short, was picking up momentum, even drawing interest from a few indie distributors. Most surprising of all? I had begun to see someone new. Her name was Lorna. She was Melissa's friend, a financial analyst who'd shown up at one of our Sunday dinners. She brought a homemade lentil stew, and while the rest of us made small talk, she asked if I used frame interpolation or traditional sequencing in my animation. I did a double take. Over the next few weeks, our friendship grew organically. There were no forced connections or soul metaphors, just shared interests and mutual respect. We talked about budgeting, music, pacing and film, how annoying it was that your grocery bill could climb even when you bought less. It was all very normal. And that's what made it so refreshing. We weren't trying to become each other's everything. We were just people who enjoyed one another's company. Lorna owned her own place, had her life together, and never once asked me what my energy field felt like. She also had no time for influencers or mystical coaching schemes. Her favorite way to unwind was by baking and watching documentaries. We started with casual dates, a local Thai spot, a walk around the botanical gardens, Sunday cooking sessions. She loved hearing about animation and asked intelligent questions that challenged me to articulate my creative process more clearly. I found myself talking to her not to impress her, but because I liked being understood. Meanwhile, Clara had all but disappeared from the radar. Her social media presence became erratic, deleted photos, archived posts, vague quotes about transformation through pain. According to Melissa's updates, the apartment Clara had moved into with Nate was now vacated. The movement studio she had helped fund had turned out to be little more than an idea Nate pitched to several other women. The final straw came when Nate's longtime girlfriend, a woman no one in the empowerment group even knew existed, went public. She created a separate Instagram account titled The Nate You Don't Know and uploaded screenshots, voice memos, bank transfers, and even PDFs of plans Nate had recycled and sent to multiple women. Each of them thought they were the inspiration behind his dream. In one message to Mia, he wrote, "Clara's hesitating, might need another chakra imbalance story to push her." When I read that line, sent to me by Melissa, who had been sent it by someone in the Fallout group, I didn't feel anger. I just felt released. It was the final confirmation that nothing Clara had done was about me. It was all about the version of herself she was trying to believe in, and the lies she had to swallow to maintain that fantasy. That Sunday, Lorna came over for dinner. We cooked together, nothing elaborate, just baked chicken and some roasted vegetables. Afterward, we sat on the balcony with 2 mugs of herbal tea, enjoying the cool breeze. She asked me, "Do you ever wonder if things had gone differently with Clara, if you'd still be in that relationship?" I thought about it for a long moment. Then I said, if things had gone differently, I wouldn't have become who I am now. So, no, I think this version of the story, as painful as it was, is the one I was meant to live through. Lorna nodded. That's honest. And it was. A little over 2 months had passed since Clara left, and I was settling into a quiet rhythm I hadn't experienced in years. The chaos of the wedding collapse, the spiritual fallout, and the emotional devastation had given way to something more grounded, a life of honest conversations, creative momentum, and small, meaningful routines. Most evenings were spent either animating scenes for my side project or talking with Lorna while we prepared dinner together. Her calm presence was a kind of antidote to the confusion Clara had left behind. We didn't talk in riddles or metaphors. We didn't need to interpret signs or symbols to understand each other. We just communicated. It was astonishing how rare that had become in my life. That's why when the knock came on my apartment door just after dusk on a Thursday, it surprised me. I wasn't expecting anyone. Lorna and I had plans to try a new Thai place later that evening, but we always met there. Curious, I walked to the door, peeked through the peephole, and felt my stomach twist. It was Clara. She stood in the hallway wearing jeans and a neutral-colored cardigan, hair straight, face bare. Gone was the pastel pink, the beads, the shawls that billowed like flags of cosmic allegiance. Her hands were folded in front of her, shoulders tense. She looked like someone who had walked a long way to a place she wasn't sure she'd be welcome. I opened the door but didn't move aside. "Hi," she said, voice soft. "Clara. Do you have a few minutes to talk?" I leaned slightly against the frame. "We can talk here." She hesitated. "Would you mind if I came in? Just for a little while?" I shook my head. "It's better we stay here." "What is it?" She looked down, gathering her thoughts. "I'm sorry. For everything. For how I left, for how I treated you. For not listening when you tried to reach me." I waited. I had rehearsed this moment a dozen different ways in my head. In some versions, I slammed the door. In others, I forgave her instantly. But the reality of the moment was quieter, more grounded. "I was in a really confused place," she continued. "I was convinced that what Mia and Nate were saying had meaning. I believed I was becoming my higher self. I thought the discomfort in our relationship was a sign I was on the wrong path. I remember," I said. "You told me I was a weight holding you to the material plane." Clara's face flushed. "I can't believe I said that. I don't even know what it means anymore." There was a pause. The hallway light flickered faintly. Somewhere, a neighbor's dog barked. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small velvet pouch. I didn't have to open it to know what it was. "I want to give this back," she said, holding it out. "The ring. I tried to sell it, but it wasn't worth even close to what you paid. I guess some things lose their value fast. I didn't reach for it. Keep it. Or give it away. It doesn't mean anything to me anymore." "I thought about you," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I've thought about you a lot. Especially after everything with Mia fell apart." She glanced at me, almost hoping for a cue to keep going. I gave her nothing but silence. She left town. Nate too. Everyone who followed her, most of them were left broke, embarrassed, lost. I burned bridges with friends, my boss, even my sister. "And I ruined things with you." "You didn't just ruin things," I said. "You abandoned them. You walked away from us like we were something you had to shed. I respected that choice even when it hurt, but now you're here, and I need to understand why." I thought maybe I could say what I should have said back then. That I was wrong. That you deserved better than how I treated you. "You're right about that." She swallowed, nodding. "I just hoped maybe, if I was honest, there might be a chance, maybe we could talk. Maybe not now, but..." "Clara," I interrupted, "we are talking. But I think what you're hoping for isn't something I can offer." Her eyes glistened. "Are you seeing someone?" "I am." She looked stunned. That was fast. It's been 2 months. And it wasn't fast. It was gradual, kind, and real. And it doesn't feel like something I need to apologize for. Of course not, she said quickly. I didn't mean. I know what you meant. You thought I'd still be stuck. Waiting. That maybe your return would undo everything. No. She sighed. I guess I thought you'd still care. I do care, I said. I care enough to want good things for you. But that doesn't mean I want to be part of your healing anymore. That job ended when you left. A tear slid down her cheek. She didn't wipe it away. I feel like I've lost everything, she said quietly. I believed so deeply in something that turned out to be fake. And now I don't know who I am. You'll figure that out, I said gently. But it's something you'll have to do without me. She nodded slowly. You're right. I get that now. There was a long pause. She finally placed the velvet pouch on the ground beside the door. I hope you're happy, she said. I am. And for the first time in a long time, I truly meant it. She turned and walked away, footsteps echoing down the corridor until the soft click of the stairwell door ended our last chapter. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Lorna, still up for Thai? Or should we pivot to Mexican? I smiled, then replied, Thai sounds perfect. I'll meet you there. That weekend, Ben and Melissa came over for a barbecue on my balcony. Lorna joined too. The four of us shared grilled vegetables, marinated chicken, and stories about childhood games and awkward job interviews. No energy talk, no spiritual codes, just people, grounded and laughing. Melissa pulled me aside at one point. Clara's been asking around, she said. She wants to know how you're doing. Tell her I'm doing just fine. And I was. Later that night, I returned to my desk and opened my animation project. The scene I'd been working on for weeks suddenly flowed. The characters moved with clarity, precision, no stuttering, no stiffness. Just honest, earned motion. Not everything in life needs closure to move forward. Sometimes, peace comes when you stop looking for explanations and start building something new. Frame by frame, breath by breath. Thank you for watching the video, like it if you watched the video to the end and don't forget to subscribe. Have a nice day.